Welcome, and thank you for tuning in to the Sunday services at Center for Spiritual Living, Denver. We are a loving and prospering community in the heart of Denver and online. We now conduct hybrid services, continuing our transmissions online weekly, as well as meeting in person on the first and third Sunday of each month at the historic Grant Avenue Community Center and Sacred Place, located at 216 South Grant Street, Denver, Colorado. All are welcomed here. A place, space, and face of love. We are a spiritual community practicing universal principles that enrich our lives. We are grateful that you have blessed us with your presence. While online, we'd love to know you're watching with us. Feel free to leave a comment and let everyone appreciate you. With everything going on, life can feel overwhelming. CSL Denver wants you to know we are here for you. Please know that our practitioners are available for personal prayer work. Our licensed spiritual practitioners' names and phone numbers are available on our website at csldenver.org. Or if you have a prayer request, feel free to email it to info@csldenver.org. For your convenience, you'll find clickable links in the description of this broadcast. Rev Elzia, along with all our guest speakers, practitioners, service coordinators, and musical inspirations, want you to know how truly grateful we are that you are with us today. Thank you for your continued support and participation in our services, workshops, and events, as well as providing financial contributions to our center. If you're interested in upcoming events and information, we send out weekly newsletters. Sign up by visiting www.csldenver.org. Presently, on the first and third Sundays of every month, we deliver services in a hybrid format where we meet in person at 216 South Grant Street. We will also continue to live stream all services on Facebook and YouTube every Sunday. Find us on our respective channels as well as on New Thought Media Network. At the conclusion of our service, we welcome you to connect in fellowship. Join us in person on the appropriate Sundays or on Zoom every week. If this will be your first time joining us online, please send an email to info@csldenver.org with fellowship in the subject line. We'll reply with the Zoom link. Again, thank you for your precious attention. Now prepare for engaging enlightenment.
Presence of God is in this place. I can feel the mighty power and the grace. I can hear the brush of angel wings. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of God is in this place. Surely the presence of God is in this place. I can feel the mighty power and the grace. I can hear the brush of angel wings. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of God is in this
Good morning. I'm Alice Nutter, a practitioner here at CSL Denver, and I invite you to join me in an invocation. So if you're comfortable, please close your eyes, sit back, and just take in a deep breath. Absolutely knowing that the presence is here in, through, and around each and every one of us. That as we move into this service, that all are blessed. StreamYard, all of everybody who is part of producing this service, and just knowing that all is well. And as we move into this holiday season, as we are in this holiday season, that we are also truly blessed, knowing that Spirit is living, loving, and breathing each and every one of us. And so I am so grateful for CSL Denver. I am so grateful for each person who has chosen to come here this morning and to watch us online, and for Reverend Elzia and all who are involved in keeping the doors of Center for Spiritual Living Denver open. And from that place of deep, deep gratitude, I release this into that one mind, that one heart, knowing that all is well, and it is so, and so it is. And our reading this morning is from this month's Science Mind magazine. It's the article is by Reverend Dr. Jesse Jennings, and it's Where the Love Light Gleams on Spiritual Community. Are people who need people really the luckiest people in the world? While need and luck are debatable terms, and adopting a life strategy from a Broadway tune won't always work out, basically, yes, they are. We are social creatures. From the first, we hunted, gathered, planted, and urbanized collectively, not alone. Now and then, one of us did wander over the far horizon, but if that one soul managed to come back, the group would soon head off there too. Some of our attachments to one another are familial or contractual, but it goes well beyond that. As modern adults, we have the choice to congregate, to meet our neighbors, to hang out in communal spaces, or not. But in every situation, balance is called for. People engaged in creative endeavors may lock themselves away a while to mingle with their muse, appearing antisocial, though at other times they pull in collaborators. It's a matter of preference and style. In our CSL centers, we serve people who have shown up and stayed for their own reasons. One person is facing a challenge and seeks a remedy. Another seems to have everything pretty well together, but lacks a context for lasting satisfaction and happiness. Another doesn't particularly care what we teach, at least in its finer points, but enjoys the energy of the group or the music or even the coffee. In some ways, there's a sense of belonging. The experience of the coronavirus protocols shutting everything down in mid-March 2020 tested that sense of belonging. This experience lasted longer than any of us anticipated and led to conversations on many levels, most insistently about the definition and value of community. If we can't share food, hold hands, or breathe in the same air, much less sing in it, are we still some semblance of family? Thanks to technology, community has been evolving, morphing really at virtual light speed, but anyone who preferred to could pretty much ignore the innovations until the pandemic pulled the rug out from under of all of us. Community is a feeling, and we may so closely link our feelings to the places where we've had them that we conflate the two. We're drawn back to the old schoolhouse or to the family homestead where our people are long gone, as though some part of us had been left behind there. We drape a lot of emotional weight over our holidays. Do we expect too much from them? No, not if we're willing to stay open, teachable, and surprised by joy. Nothing will be as it was, but then we all knew of it as we felt about it. Community is collective memory, not in a maudlin way, but as a foundation from which we build our future selves, families, and world over the days and years to come. Community is dreaming, and dreams are real, especially the waking ones. And now from our founder, Dr. Ernest Holmes, from the book, This Thing Called You. You know that life cannot withhold itself from you. All that life is and has is fully given to you to enjoy. The life of God is perfect and eternal. It is the essence of everything that is. Life is God's gift to you. It is always ready to manifest itself through you in its entire fullness. And now for our musical guest, Ray Davis.
I'm so grateful to be here with you today. So grateful indeed to share this life divine. Got some high vibe music for you today. Check this lyric. Haven't you heard? Haven't you heard? You're the light lighting up the world. Haven't you heard? Haven't you heard? In you there's no darkness. Oh, haven't you heard? Haven't you heard? You're the bread. You're the wine, the word. Haven't you heard? Haven't you heard? Ooh, 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 ooh. La 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 la. I know sometimes it's hard for you to clearly see just how you're gonna keep it together. Your obligations and responsibilities, how you gonna meet them ends, how you gonna make it one more time. But now let's hear the truth of it. You are much, much more than this. Haven't you heard? Haven't you heard? You're the light lighting up the world. Haven't you heard? Haven't you heard? In you there's no darkness. Haven't you heard? Haven't you heard? You're the bread, you're the wine, the word. Haven't you heard? Haven't you heard? You're the light of the universe. I know sometimes it's hard to hold your head up high and show the world you've got it together. You think of things that make you wanna run and hide. Who would love you if they knew who you're? Who could you trust to understand? But now let's hear the truth of it. You are loved much more than this. Haven't you heard? Oh, haven't you heard? You're the light lighting up the world. Haven't you heard? Oh, haven't you heard? In you there's no darkness. Haven't you heard? Oh, haven't you heard? You're the bread, you're the wine, the word. Haven't you heard? Haven't you heard? You're the light of the universe. You're not the things you have done. You're not the words that you've said or the heartache that you're going through. Whoa, you are the bright of the sun. You are the glow of the moon. And in your presence, the things that seem dark fade away. Haven't you heard? Haven't you heard? You're the light lighting up the world. Haven't you heard? Haven't you heard? In you there's no darkness. Oh, haven't you heard? Haven't you heard? You're the bread, you're the wine, the word. Haven't you heard? Haven't you heard? You're the light of the universe. You're the light lighting up the world. Haven't you heard? Haven't you heard? Ooh.
Good morning, and welcome to CSL Denver, a place, a space, and a face of love. A spiritual community teaching ancient wisdom and using universal principles to empower our lives and the lives of others. Now, today, we continue our series on community. And just to give you an idea of what community really is, we're experiencing it here today because our technical support team is having some issues. And so someone else in the community has to pick up where they are not able to. And so when we look at the theme for today, the sacred symphony of community, this is a perfect example of what life is about. As Ray said in the song, all manner of things may happen. You're not what happened. You're not what you said, but we are the light of the world that when we come together, we can show that all things are possible. And with the community, however many you have in the community, is twice that many lights shining. And so today, when we look at the symphony of the sacred community, I want to ask the question, how many of you, whether you're in the audience here or whether you're online, have ever attended a symphony or listened to a symphony, right? So maybe it was Beethoven's Fifth, right? Dun-dun-dun-dun, that gets you started. Or maybe it was the Rhapsody in Blue. And if any of you ever caught the United Airlines or heard the United Airlines, that music that first comes on with the clarinet, that little sultry clarinet, that's a Rhapsody in Blue. Or maybe you heard Duke Ellington's Symphony in Black. But whichever one you listened to, there was this moment where it captured you, where it made you pay attention, whether you like the music or not, because the way the symphony is done, it's done with 4 sets of instruments, right? It's done with strings, percussions, woodwinds, and brass. That's how a symphony is composed. And so the one thing that stands out when you see a symphony more so than hear it, but when you see it, the thing that sticks out the most is the unity of that group, the oneness of that group, and how they work together. How they work together. Now, the other thing that some of you may or may not know, that a symphony is made up of 4 parts. It starts out fast, and there's a slow piece, then there's a dance piece, and there's another ending piece, and they can sometimes move them around, but that's normally the pattern that it takes. And so when you look at the 4 parts and you look at the instruments that are there, there's always a conductor as well. Someone who is orchestrating the whole piece. Now, anyone can be the orchestra leader, the conductor, at any given time. The conductor is not necessarily the one that's in front with the baton. Because if you know music, and if you played music, in each section, they have what? They have the first chair, and they have the second chair. And that first and second chair are the conductors of that section. Now, when I was in the band, I played clarinet, and I also badly wanted to play saxophone. And my teacher would not let me switch. We took some kind of crazy test, and he said, "Oh, you're going to be a great clarinetist." And I'm like, "No, I'm not. I don't want to play it." But I was able to get to the second chair. And so my job as the assistant to the conductor of that section was to pay attention, was to listen, was to look for other people's gifts and figure out if someone someday would take the second chair or the first chair or would lead a solo. Because that's what community is about. One thing we know now, after we've gone through the pandemic, is the magic word that everybody's heard: succession planning. There must always be a succession plan. And so when you look at a symphony, when you look at an orchestra, when you look at the sacred community, everybody should be able and willing to step up to be the second chair, the first chair, the conductor. And so when we can create that kind of environment, we are well on our way to creating the sacred community. Well on our way to creating the sacred community. Now, when the musicians are in the position, you know, the conductor, everybody's in a relaxed position, and the conductor, if you've seen it, taps the baton and raises his arm. Before then, everybody is like kind of relaxed, and at that moment, everybody's at attention. Their horns are in place. They're sitting up straight in the chair. And that's what we do in a community. When there is a cause or an issue or a person that needs to be serviced or celebrated or uplifted, that's what the sacred community does. It is the upliftment of everybody. It is an upliftment of everybody. And so when we look at building the beloved community, the sacred community, we must all look and see not only what our skills are, but where we fit in and what part do we have to play, and to always be ready, willing, and able to step up and grab the baton. And so under examination, and when we look at the community that joins together with various parts and various instruments, the thing that's being done is telling a story. A story is being told through the music, or a picture is being painted in your mind to give you an idea of life itself, And thus, in the great symphony of life, the sacred symphony of community, we look at each role as being important. There is no unimportant role in the symphony, because if you have a conductor with no music or no musicians, it might look interesting for a minute to see a person, but it's going to look pretty odd pretty soon. Or if you got percussions with no other music, it's going to sound like just random noise. But it is that coming together as one in unity that allows us to emerge as a sacred community, and giving each one of us our part to play. Now, it has been said that when a sacred community, or for that matter, any community of people come together to express the divine, to express God's will, to express God's glory, there are no obstacles that stand in the way. There are no obstacles that stand in the way. And so when we begin to look at how we at CSL Denver, a smaller community, within a bigger community of Denver, within a bigger community of Colorado, when we begin to look at how we can make a difference, how we can change the world, we must remember the first and foremost, we got to show up. You got to show up. You can be the best conductor, the best percussionist, the best string person, but if you don't show up, there is no need for a community. There's no symphony. It's not there. You have to show up. There's a little tongue-in-cheek story by Hafiz, a Sufi, and he said he was in this town, and they were preparing right now, like Christmas. They were preparing for the Christmas play, Christmas program, and everybody was rushing around, getting their stuff, going together, and they rushed over to the hall, and they were going to practice. And Hafiz was just sitting there on the bench in front of the church, just looking at everybody go in and smiling. And they said, Hafiz, aren't you going to be a part of the play? Aren't you coming to practice? And he says, well, I don't need to practice. I already know my part. Because he's saying that I have practiced before you tell me it's time to practice. The saying goes, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. So his point was, I'm always practicing my part in the symphony. I'm always practicing my part in the community. So when you call on me, there is no need to practice. It's time to play at that point. And so that's what we have to do when we begin to build communities, whether it's the family or otherwise. We have to stay in practice. And when we look at the spiritual community that we're in and spiritual community in general, one of the hallmarks, the cornerstones of spirituality is spiritual practice. I don't want to wait till I'm in a crisis to try to figure out how to pray. I don't want to wait till I'm in a moment where my mind is just clouded with stuff to go try and meditate. I have to practice. And I want to dismantle that old saying that practice makes perfect. That's absolutely not. Practice makes improvement. Practice makes improvement, not perfection, because there's only one perfect thing in the universe, and that is God itself. So we can get real close, but we're still practicing to get closer to the mark of the divine that's within. And so when we take this idea and we look at any part of the universe, whether it's the ocean, whether it's the forest, whether it's the sky, the changing seasons, we see this rhythmic relationship between the various parts of each one of those communities, if you will, working together. And I like to bring up this slide from our global vision that says, we demonstrate the oneness of spirit in everything we do, knowing that the oneness is inclusive of race, age, ethnicity, culture, history, religion, political affiliation, experience, gender, and sexual orientation. Now that's a mouthful. Of the divine, and keep in mind that everything is included. That's how we demonstrate the oneness of God. That's how we demonstrate the oneness of spirit. And so let us continue to do that. Let us continue to look at how we can build a bond, build a bridge to create the sacred community. But this doesn't happen unless we have two things. Three things, really. One, we've already talked about, practice. You got to practice. Whatever your skill is, you got to practice. And if we look at this succession plan, you not only practice your part, but you practice somebody else's part, right? Because we know the symphony has different parts. So we may need to step in, like today, with the technology, we had to step in and do some stuff to get that piece together so that we can produce this show. All right? And the next thing is, and probably the most important thing, is your commitment. How committed are you to being in the symphony? How committed are you to practicing and to learning your part and learning others' part? And then last but not least of that, the willingness. Are you willing? You can have all the practice and be committed to your practice, but are you willing to be a part of the community? Are you willing to fit in? Are you willing to have dialogue? Are you willing to be able to look at things that say, yes, life is good. Yes, there are problems, but we as a community can work through them. And so when we are understanding what that looks like, we come up with this idea of this slide by Jim Lockhart in the Creating the Beloved Community. Safe space in spiritual community is not about eliminating discomfort. It is providing a supportive place where we can experience the inevitable discomfort of deep personal introspection and spiritual growth and support, with support and understanding. In a true community, that is a place where we have a chance to make mistakes and be corrected before we go out into the broader world and everyone takes us for targets and they start shooting at every little thing we say wrong. But when you're in your sacred community, that's the place to have the mistakes, to have the problems, to work the things out so that it becomes a place where you will be lovingly corrected, not horrifically torn down. That's what a sacred community does. It allows you to grow into the fullness of who you are. It allows you to grow into the fullness of who you are. And so ultimately, what we get to when we look at this symphony of the community, this sacred symphony, there's 3 parts that get played out. And we want to use these to go into the points today to figure out how we continue to elevate community, one, and to engross ourselves with that. Now, in any community of an orchestra or a symphony, or however you define your community, there are 3 things that go on. There's a call and response. If you know music and you listen to music in a symphonic band, there's a call, there's a little tweety tweet over here. I'm not going to try to make that sound of a clarinet, and it may be responded by a tooty toot of a horn over here. So you have these 2 call and response. One thing calls, the other responds. So that's life. Life is this way of calling and responding, a symphony that we have to pay attention. Call and response. And then the next thing is a dialogue. There's always a dialogue going on, whether it's between the conductor and the musicians, or whether it's between the brass and the woodwinds, or the strings and the percussion, but there's always a dialogue going on, which is what makes the sacred community. We have to have communication. One of the things that came out during the pandemic was this idea of courageous conversations. Courageous conversations where people could get together from different walks of life and be able to talk freely about any subject without fear of reprisal, without being judged as best you can. We know judgment is a tough thing to deal with, but that's why we have sacred community, because somebody in the community gonna call you out and say, "Ooh, sound pretty judgmental there, my brother. You want to rephrase that? Can we say that in another way so it's not so incriminating or demeaning, or makes me more responsive to answer?" So there's a dialogue, and we have to understand what that means when we have these sacred conversations, when we're building community. And then the third thing is, when I make my statement during my dialogue, somebody may say, can you elaborate on that? Can you give, it sounds nice, but I need to know if there's more behind it. Can you elaborate on what you're saying? And so when we look at a symphony, these are the things that are going on. When we look at a community, this is what's going on. There's a call and response. There's a dialogue going on. And there's points where we have an elaboration, i.e. we get a solo player to step up and do a solo. And not like I used to play sometime when I wasn't confident. I played so low you couldn't hear me. I was truly solo. We don't need those kind of solos in the community. We need you to stand up, play loud, and even if you hit a wrong note, just keep playing. This is a forgiving place, right? And so when we look at trying to create a community in this way, where it's different parts and different movements and different levels of conversation to create a sacred space for people to grow, there are 3 things that I want you to leave home with. Number 1 is tuning. Number 1 is tuning. You have to, if you get to the orchestra early, before they start, you'll hear it sounds like just chaos. Everybody's strumming their instrument and blowing their horns and trying to find the tune that they're going to play. And everything in the universe is connected beyond appearances, right? So when you first appearances, that tuning thing is like, what is going on? Did I waste my money? Can I get out early? But when they get the instruments tuned and the conductor strikes the band up, there's perfect harmony. There's perfect harmony. And so when we look at this idea of tuning must come first. Every recital begins with a careful tightening of the pegs on the crossbar, twisting them in their sockets and the red threads as each string is plucked and tested. And so that's what when we engage in life, when we engage with different encounters with people, places, and things, we're trying to tune ourselves in to the flow of life so that we fit in, that we know when to play our parts. We know when to go high and we know when to go low. So this idea of being in tune, and that's the first thing that we have to do, is synonymous with us finding out who we are. What is our authentic self? I need to be tuned to me. Because if I start trying to tune to the saxophone and I'm the piano, or I'm trying to tune to the cello, it's not going to work. I need to be in tune with me so I can play my part. So that's the first thing. The first thing is we need to find our own tuning, our authentic selves, to be a part of the sacred community. Now, the second thing, and some people this might be hard, it's called timing or time. And if you ever been to a comedy show, the first thing they'll tell you if you go to an improv or something, they say in comedy, timing is everything. And I would say it's not just about comedy, it's about life. In life, timing is everything. And so if you can't get the timing right, you're always going to be one step ahead or one step behind. And if you've ever seen that in action, it's sad, but it's quite comical at the same time to watch somebody dance to a beat. And they're like, the beat's over here and they're dancing over here. And it's like, what is going on? So timing is key. And I would submit that the essential ingredient in all things, whether it's cooking, when to add the sugar, or when to put the milk and stir it, or whether it's sports, when to pass the ball for the person to shoot the goal. And I know today we got the World Cup. I don't know who's winning, but I know there's some timing going on when they're passing that ball, trying to score to win the World Cup. There's a timing there. And ultimately, in life, there's a timing. Reverend T.D. Jakes says this: timing is so important. If you are going to be successful in music or dance or anything, you must be able to respond to rhythm and timing. It's the same in the spirit. People who don't understand God's timing can become spiritually sporadic, trying to make the right things happen at the wrong time. How many of us have done that? How many of us have tried to make things happen as opposed to letting them happen? Now, I may recall one time where I tried to make it happen, and it actually worked. And it had nothing to do with my making. I was serendipitously in tune with the divine. I had the right time, and I thought I was doing something, but it had nothing to do with me. My timing was in time with God. My tuning was in time. And so it happened. But when we are not timed to the sequence of what's going on, then we have a problem. And as we know, with music has this other thing called time signature for any of the musicians in the audience. The music could be set in a 4/4 time, or it could be a 3/4 time, right? Or it could be a cut time, or it could be allegro. So you got all these musical terms to determine when you speed up or when you slow down, or how fast or how slow the music's played. So timing is key. And last but not least, this is the ultimate of the community, and that's the harmony. It's the harmony. So once we have the tuning and the timing and everybody's doing their thing, the harmony is almost it's almost self-generated. It creates itself for us to be in harmony with one another. To be in harmony with one another. Now, I found I'm going to try to pronounce his name correctly. I did it 1,000 times online, but I'm going to forget it here now. So I'm not even going to try because I don't want to mess it up. But this was this gentleman was born in 1861. Rabindranath Tagore. He said this: the highest education is that which does not merely give us information, but makes our life in harmony with all existence. To make our life harmonize with all existence. And what that's saying to me is, yeah, we know you got to understand the timing and you got to practice. But if this just for practice sake, if it's not leading to this harmony of life, then it's kind of self-serving. And it doesn't support the community to reach its potential. Marcus Aurelius said this: he who lives in harmony with themselves lives in harmony with the universe. So one of the touchstones of this harmonic, symphonic community, if you will, is being in touch with yourself. Doing some exploration in your own laboratory of your life, trying to figure out who and what you are. And so when that happens, when we're able to allow ourselves to find our time to practice and then understand the timing of the piece, the music, the community, the harmony is a byproduct that God just gives us as a grace. And so as we move into this week and looking for ways that we can enhance our involvement, our call to action is two things. What is your role in the community? In the symphony of life, in the symphony of community, what is your role? I can't tell you. You have to define that for yourself, because you may be hiding your gift from me. Or I may be hiding my gift from you. Each individual has to understand what their role is, what their part is in the symphony. And next is, how can you better share that gift with the community? How can you better make everything work in this harmonious way? And so when we're able to do that, when we can answer these questions and then take that same pattern of tuning ourselves to that, finding the timing to present that, the harmony of everything will fall in line. And so as we close and we look at the affirmation for this week, it's a simple one. I am one with the symphony of life. I am one with the symphony of life. And so when we can call on that, when we can be a part of that symphony of life, knowing who and what we are, knowing our time and having had the practice, we can be gracious and grateful members of the symphony of life, which is also known as the sacred community. Let us pray. Dear Mother, Father God, that harmony of life, that part where everything comes together in complete surrender, knowing that each part has its own unique gifts and talents to play, and that they do it freely, that they give openly, knowing that my prayer is your prayer too. And so no matter what the activity is, no matter what the words are, no matter what the situations are, we are all working together for a common good. And so as we look at God's grand symphony of life, and how when you wake up in the morning and you catch that dawn moment when all the birds are singing, and you look out the window and all of the animals are up and moving about, getting ready for their day, there was a beauty there. There is a simplicity there that allows us to awaken to that same simplicity and beauty within ourselves, that we can bring to our community, that we can bring to our family, that we can bring to the world, so that we begin to create a symphony of life. And so I know right here, right now, that each and every one of us that is in this room and that is online are awakening to the idea to tune in to our talents, to tune into our gifts, to awaken to the timing that God has set within each and every one of us to bring forth the sweet music and harmony that we all seek. And so as we continue to do that and we continue to allow ourselves to be vessels of the divine, to be an instrument, as they say, in the master's hand to make beautiful music, we do so lovingly and freely. And so I give thanks for this opportunity to be more involved in community, to bring my gifts more to bear. And with that, I just give thanks for this moment and every moment, knowing that God is everywhere we are and there is no place where God is not. And so with that, I release, I let go, and I know that it is absolutely so. And so it is, amen. And so it is, amen. And so I hope everyone has some wheel turning in their mind about how do I support the community? How do I get involved? How do I take my instrument called my life and put it forth? And so as you continue to do that during the week, we want to just stay thankful for you and everyone that supports this community. We are grateful for all of your support to CSL Denver in time, treasure, and talents. And whether this is your first time or you're a returning member, we thank you for your support. And there are many different ways that you can give, and it allows you to go to the website and click the donate button. There's a text to give, and I'm looking for my banner. As I said, I told y'all I'm working with my technology here, and I'm not even going to try it because it's going to, I got so much stuff here. But you can text to give, or you can send it to the P.O. Box 300-416, Denver, Colorado, 80203. But however you give, please continue to do so. And if it feels comfortable, if you place your hand on your heart and repeat our affirmation, this perfect gift is spirit informed, circulating and blessing all that it touches. Freely I give and joyously I receive, and so it is. Amen.
So we have a few announcements here. As you know, this coming Sunday is Christmas, December 25th. Reverend Elzia and our practitioners have put together a really nice service called Community Lights the Way. We will look at the Christian nativity scene from a metaphysical perspective as a call to live in a loving community with one another. This service is pre-recorded so that we can all enjoy our families during this holiday. We will not be having fellowship after service that day. However, on the following Sunday, January 1st, New Year's Day, we will be hosting a live and in-person burning bowl ceremony and circle as our Sunday service here at this new location, 216 South Grant Street in the historic Grant Avenue Community Center. The ceremony starts at 10 a.m. Please join us as we spend time together releasing and letting go of what no longer serves each of us from 2022, and then journaling and visualizing what we want our 2023 to look like. This ceremony is all about shifting consciousness. And we found that trying to do live fellowship along with online fellowship hasn't been working very well. And then today kind of really hits that home. So until we get it figured out, we will be doing live fellowship only. And now for some more good news, starting on January 1st, Center for Spiritual Living Denver will be meeting live and in person every Sunday, not just the first and third. So we will also be live streaming on Facebook and YouTube, but we're going to be meeting in person every Sunday right here. And if you would like to hear some good news of the world to offset some of the other stuff going on, we have a link on our Facebook page called And Now the Good News. This program is put together by New Thought Media Network and airs on Fridays at 5 p.m. Mountain Time, or you can watch these anytime during the week. You can just go to our Facebook page, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, and click on And Now the Good News. And we've got, every Friday, from pasts and all that. So anyway, we hope you have a wonderful week and very blessed holidays. And we know right here and right now that 2022 is blessed and perfect in all that it is. We look forward to a fabulous, prosperous, and fulfilling 2023. And let's close out with Michael Gott singing I Release and I Let Go.
There was a time in my life, thought I had to do it all for myself. Didn't know the grace of God was sufficient. I didn't know the love of God was at hand. But now I can say, if you are discouraged, struggling just to make it through another day, you gotta let it go. Gotta let it go. You gotta let it all go. And this is what you have to say.